Good evening. You're watching the Super Saturday debate with me, Poonam Burde. This election season, terror and our armed forces seem to have been politicized once again. One Congress leader after another in the last 1 week has raked up the central government's policy on terror, specifically against Pakistan, and stoked controversy. The latest one is Chief Minister of Telangana, Revanth Reddy, who raised doubts on the Balakot surgical strike. Who knows what happened, he asked. The BJP was quick to take on the grand old party for politicizing our men in uniform. This is the Congress's policy, they said, accusing them of appeasement politics. So who really is trying to gain political brownie points from this politics of terror? Before we get into that, here's the story so far.
ये कि वो भी एक सॉवरेन मुल्क है, आप उनसे जितनी कड़ी बात करना चाहते हो करो, लेकिन बात तो करो। और कोई भी पागल वहां आ जाए तो क्या होगा देश का? उनके एटम बॉम्ब है।
Pulwama incident is classic example. They have failed. पुलवामा इंसिडेंट होने के बाद सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक में पॉलिटिकल बेनिफिट लेने के लिए मोदी जी कोशिश कर रहा है। मेरा सवाल ये है कि मोदी जी को पुलवामा इंसिडेंट क्यों हुआ है, क्यों होने दिए?
देश भूल नहीं सकता कि आतंकियों को सबक सिखाने के बजाय ये लोग आतंकी संगठनों के साथ बैठकें करते थे।
ये तो पहले भी करते रहे और मुझे लगता है कि देश की सेना का अपमान करना ये इतनी घिनौनी बात है और ये कांग्रेस के ही कल्चर में है। ये उस समय भी हुआ था जब पुलवामा का हुआ था, उस समय भी इन्होंने प्रश्न चिन्ह उठाए थे।
Joining me on this broadcast, Ajay Alok, national spokesperson of the BJP, Kapil Madan, a lawyer who backs the Congress on multiple issues, joins us as well. Major General retired A.K. Sivach, a defense expert, joins us as well. Before we get into the politics of it, I want to get in Major General A.K. Sivach on this. So there are some things that must be kept out of politics, isn't it? And our armed forces should be one of them. That's the line that should be drawn by politicians, irrespective of which party they belong to.
Absolutely. See, Poonam, whenever there is a question of national security, we should be on one page and we should speak only one language. You know, when you are basically dealing with the nation pride, you cannot have two different voices. And the opposition must understand that in case they are doubting their own country, they are doubting their own armed forces. And tomorrow this will be made use by your adversary in an international forum. And that's what's happening. It's very unfortunate. I can only advise and guide to all the political parties, whenever there is a question of dealing with the security of the nation, we must stand united and there should be only one voice. The politics should be somewhere else. As far as the national unity is concerned, as far as the character of the nation is concerned, as far as your adversary are concerned, we should be solid one and there should be no difference of opinion. Whenever there is a difference of opinion, you are now giving space to your adversary. See, Pakistan is today cornered. They know it that today IMF is not ready to give them loan because they are sponsoring terrorism. They are the ones which are signing terrorists. But when we start creating doubt ourselves, our own politician saying whether Pulwama has taken place, whether the surgical strike has taken place or not, as far as Balakot is concerned, then your case becomes weak internationally. We must understand that we are supporting then your own adversary rather than uniting your own armed forces. And it demoralizes the people who are on the border area. They are guarding us day in, day out. And in case they come to know this sort of comments being passed by our own politicians who see them in a very high light, they feel demoted. So my only advice and guidance will be that whenever there is a security of the nation concerned, they must speak only one language. Politics is different, but security of the nation is something much, much about that.
Absolutely. And it's giving Pakistan a handle. Ajay Alok, we've seen even in the past several times there have been comments that have been made by politicians here in India that have been echoed by politicians in Pakistan, taking a cue from what was being said here. We're talking about election season. Many would say that everything is fair in love and war, and elections is a form of one of those wars. But armed forces, security of the country, our intelligence agencies, all of that must be kept out of the purview of the politics, isn't it?
Of course, it must be kept out of the purview of the politics, but the problem here is that they see everything from frame which decides the votes. They think by abusing armed forces, by raising a question on their valor and their courage, they like to incite somebody from the vote bank angle. And don't forget that Rahul Gandhi's statements were carried by Pakistan up to the UN also, but he never stopped. This is the problem with our country. When you don't respect the armed forces, you don't respect the armed forces chief, he becomes a gali ka gunda and things like that. Army becomes rapist in Kashmir. All these kind of statements we have heard from opposition. I don't know what motivates them to say all these things, and they think that by saying all these things they can galvanize a particular vote bank, or they can, of course they are giving push to the Pakistan, they are giving hemoglobin to Pakistan against India. But God knows what happens in their mind, but this is their mindset. And thankfully for the last 8, 9 years, 10 years, this mindset is getting exposed every day in and day out. And people of this country hates it, that's for sure.
Kapil Madan, we've had in the last 1 week several leaders of the Congress party who've come out and made these comments, who've raised doubts. Sure, in a democracy, you can ask questions of the government's policies. You can speak of whether what the government has done is right or wrong. And everyone has that right under the right to free speech. But we've seen the Congress party come out and distance themselves from most of those comments that have been made. But here today, we have a chief minister of a state coming out and raising those questions.
So Poonam, it's a sensitive issue, and I would appreciate uninterrupted time.
Sure.
So I will start my comment by letting your viewers know 2 such incidents. One is on 15 September 2013, Mr. Narendra Modi from his official handle called the Army Week, and I'm sure Major General Sivaj, if he hears this comment, how would he feel? And I'm absolutely sure that looking at this comment, Major General Viraj will feel terrible. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is that who is trying to politicize this issue? Let me also remind, when the terrible Mumbai attack happened, none other than our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi did a press conference on the spot in Mumbai itself. Back then, when Narendra Modi ji was questioning the government, questioning our intelligence, our preparedness to have these kind of defenses, no one called Mr. Narendra Modi that you are trying to help Pakistan, what Mr. Sivaj and both Mr. Alok is trying to suggest. Now coming to specifically what Mr. Reddy has said in his statement. What is Mr. Reddy said? Mr. Reddy has said that why such kind of incident has happened and who has taken responsibility. Can you today deny that we lost our 40 soldiers and a car full of explosive entered in our country? Is it not appropriate that we ask these kind of questions to the government, that it was whose responsibility, it was whose failure because of which such kind of a ghastly act happened? And let me also give you a political reason for it. None other than the former governor of J&K, Mr. Satyapal Malik, has admitted that it was the government failure because it was our security preparedness, because the armed forces sought aircraft for sending our people and our soldiers from by aircraft, and we denied it. Now, in the context of everything, is it not appropriate we ask this question? Is there an investigation on what Mr. Satyapal Malik has said? Is there any official document released by any security forces or any of the agencies to say that what Mr. Satyapal Malik is saying is incorrect?
Sure.
And I am sure, and I am sure. I mean, it's the smoke screen which my good friend Ajay Alok, he's a very good spokesperson, and he would try to create a smoke screen. But I am equally pained that a person of Major Sivaj caliber fell prey to this kind of a propaganda which the government is trying to...
Actually, I don't think he did. I think you're wrongly attributing that to Major General Sivaj. We were talking about politicians irrespective of which side of the spectrum they come from. I don't think he was trying to talk about the BJP or the Congress per se, but we're talking about politicians. We're talking about politicians in general and how this needs to be kept out of the purview of politics. But Kapil Madan, like you said, sure, these questions need to be raised. Yes, it's national security. That's something that cannot be compromised upon, which is why in a democracy you need to ask these questions to get those answers. I totally agree with you there. But all of these issues that questions are being asked on are not ones that have happened in the recent past. These questions have been asked before as well. Why are they happening just 2 days before the fourth phase of elections? That's the question that's being asked, which is why the Congress faces the allegation of pandering to a certain vote bank in election season.
Because you will hold the government to accountable during the election season. You would tell your people that where the government have failed. You will tell, the people that, while voting for a particular government, you will have to see not the Hindu Muslim, not the Mangal Sutra, not the Bhais comment, but the issues that matter. The issues of employment, the issues of inflation, the issues of national security, the issues in which way our nation is going. So these are the questions which you will definitely raise at the time of election, because that's the moment when you will have to exercise your franchise and elect a government.
Sure. So the issues of national security, Ajay Alok, are important and they need to be asked in election season. Why accuse the Congress of politicizing this? That's the argument that even the Congress makes.
That's not. Well, it's not a question that you shouldn't ask that if something relates to national security. You are not asking question about national security. You are directly casting your doubt and aspersions on the Indian Army. You are casting your doubts when Indian Army gives an official statement that yes, we did Pulwama, we destroyed the terrorist camps, and your chief minister comes out and says there is nothing called Pulwama. Somebody says some crows were shut down and some trees went off. I mean, you are then casting aspersions on your own army. It's not a question about national security. Now, you very correctly said, you were mentioning some gentlemen. When Acharya Pramod Krishnan leaves Congress, hasn't joined BJP, when he gives a statement that Rahul Gandhi wants to constitute a special commission to change the verdict given by the Supreme Court, then you say, no, he has left Congress. So he's giving all these kind of things. But when Satyapal Malik gets off from governor, leaves BJP, starts criticizing, openly sides with you, start chairing your rallies, attending your meetings, and his statement becomes of a great value to you. What kind of opportunism is this? It's a simple logic that any Indian will adhere to. That we trust our armed forces. We are secured because of them, at the borders. We have to provide them with all the equal opportunities and facilities, and we have done it. You're talking of an aircraft. You were not able to give them bulletproof jackets, which they kept on asking. You never gave them any ammunition. You would never give them the border roads.
I'm not too sure if you can see, if you have a screen in front of you, but what Kapil Madan is trying to show you is a post from Narendra Modi in the past. The same accusation that the BJP is making against the Congress and the opposition today is the one that they are making at you, that when the BJP was in opposition, they raised similar questions. So why was it okay then, and why is it not okay now for the opposition to do?
No, I'm not saying raising question is not wrong. You should raise question, but don't cast your doubts on the army. If Narendra Modi said that army is being weakened, that is because we say it. No, that's we say because after 26/11, when the army commanders went to the Prime Minister and they had a meeting that we can retaliate, we should retaliate Pakistan, the government of the day refused. So this how you weaken the army, this how you weaken the moral of the army. This is the story. When you release terrorists in 2010 on making a good relationship with Pakistan, then the morale of the army and the defense forces goes down. That we just by somehow we managed to gather those terrorists by arresting them, by sacrificing our life, and look at this government leaving terrorists on account of making good relations with Pakistan. This is weakening army. Raising question about your preparedness, raising questions about your right-taking decision ability is not wrong. You can do that, but you never do that. You try and break the morale of the nation. That is wrong.
Sure. Kapil Madan, yes, you had a point to make before I get in Major Nasivach. Yes.
I will make a quick point. All our viewers saw how, Mr. Alok has drifted. He has refused to answer what Mr. Narendra Modi has said. I have shown it on the TV in very simpler, in very clear, unequivocal statement. He made a remark and called our army weak. Does Mr. Alok here supports that statement or condemns that statement?
You deliberately made army weak.
No, he said so. I have shown. You want to see again? You please see this again. Please see this again.
Imagine when the defense minister of this country gets up in the parliament and says, we don't require border roads. Does this strengthen the army?
No, Mr.
When the defense minister of the country says in the parliament that we don't want to develop infrastructure in the border areas, does it strengthen the army or weakens the army? I mean, what kind of a logic you are applying? And then being in opposition, when we say that you are weakening the army, we are not wrong.
Mr. Alok, your hypocrisy is being exposed. You don't have an answer. That's point number one. And I will make my other point when
you are the biggest hypocrite.
No, I am sorry. You're not able to answer. You are saying you yourself, your leaders are calling army weak, and then you are trying to say that the opposition.
See, the problem is, you guys don't know how to behave as an opposition, and in the power position, you are not going to come. This is your problem.
No, Mr. Alok, it's not.
You don't know how to behave like a decent opposition, and you are not going to come in power for the next 30, 40 years. So better you start adopting yourself. How to behave like a decent opposition and a responsible opposition.
So, Mr. Alok,
it's 10 years is a long time. You should have learned by now.
We understand. You are, your difficulty today. You are in a tight spot. You don't have an answer. You either can't accept the statement because it has been said by Mr. Modi.
Your chief minister is raising doubt over Pulwama attack, and I don't have an answer. Come on. Kapil, what are you talking about? Talk sense.
Mr. Alok ji.
Your chief minister used the rally ground just to cast questions on the army. Pulwama ground, and I don't have a talking point. The nation is angry with you guys.
You have done that.
Nation gets angry with you guys only on these kind of statements.
I think
Kapil Madan, Alok and Kapil Madan, let me interrupt here because the political voices that are coming to the fore from the opposition seem to be towing that one particular line that talks are important with Pakistan. Questions are being raised as far as the central government's, the Modi government's policy vis-a-vis terror is concerned. The BJP, of course, likes to say that we've strengthened our policy. We've ensured that there are no terror and talks that happen together. The opposition continues to raise doubts. And before I get in, Major General Sivaj, there is a reaction that's coming in from the former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister and NC's candidate this time around in the election, Omar Abdullah as well. He too now is coming out and batting for talks with Pakistan. He says that we do hope that leaders on both sides create this atmosphere for dialogue. Listen to what he has to say.
मैं तो दोस्ती और अमन का ही पैगाम देना चाहूँगा। मैं और किसी के अल्फाज यहाँ नहीं दोहराऊँगा। इस मुल्क के साबका वज़ीर आज़म जिनको इसी बीजेपी के हुकूमत ने भारत रत्न से नवाजा, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी साहब, उन्होंने क्या कहा हम दोस्त बदल सकते हैं, पड़ोसी बदल नहीं सकते। दरिया के पार जो है ये हमारा पड़ोसी मुल्क है। आप इस मुल्क को जो है यहाँ से उठा के कोई और मुल्क यहाँ बसा नहीं सकते हो। आखिरकार इन्हीं के साथ रहना है तो क्यों ना दोस्ती से रहें। लेकिन मैं ये भी जानता हूँ कि बातचीत के लिए माहौल तैयार करना ये सिर्फ एक मुल्क की जिम्मेदारी नहीं है। इसमें दोनों मुल्कों को अपना रोल जो है अदा करना होगा। पाकिस्तान में हाल ही में इंतखाबात हुए, नई हुकूमत बनी। यहाँ जून में नतीजा जो भी होगा नई हुकूमत आएगी। उम्मीद यही की जा रही है कि दोनों मुल्कों के मवालिक जो हैं वो बातचीत के लिए एक माहौल तैयार करें।
Major General Sivaj, बातचीत करनी चाहिए, माहौल क्रिएट करना चाहिए. But isn't the onus on Pakistan because the line has to be drawn somewhere. You cannot keep spilling blood on our soil and then expect that we would entertain you.
Absolutely. See, Poonam, that's the bottom line. You know, talks and terrorism cannot go together. There are now, even as we are discussing this, there are 10,000 Lashkar-e-Toba and Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists sitting in launch pad and training areas in POJK, equipped with M4 rifles which were left by Americans in Afghanistan. Now, has the Pakistan changed its mindset? It hasn't. It is still working on that K2 dash, that Khalistan as well as Kashmir. And they are trying to send the terrorists, if they find it, that our counter-terrorism grid is very robust in Kashmir Valley. They are now start trying to open the another front south of Pir Panjal in Rajouri Point. I have served on line of control for almost a decade. So I understand as to what Pakistan is trying to do. Pakistan is today economically bankrupt. It is politically unstable. Terrorism is on increase. But is it stopping sending terrorists in India? Of course not. So therefore, the point today is, in case we trying to go closer and trying to have good relation with Pakistan, it will not make any difference because they are not going to stop terrorists sending in India. And now if say we are talking about that the Pakistanis have an atom bomb and therefore we must talk to them. This is ridiculous. The atom bomb, all nuclear weapons are not weapons of war. They are weapons of deterrence. We have already exposed the Pakistan bogey as far as the nuclear weapon is concerned, both in after Uri when did a surgical strike and after Pulwama when we went to Balakot airstrike 90 kilometers deep inside Pakistan in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So my point today is we must be very clear, and my request to both the parties, whether it is ruling party or opposition, when we talk about the security of the nation, we should be on the same page. Two wrongs can't make right. The question today is that as on today, I can say with a lot of certainty, we have come a long way. Today, we are the 5th largest economy. We are going to become a 3rd largest economy. We are the 4th military power.
Sure.
We are now start making weapons ourselves. We are a far stronger nation.
Sure, but like Major Sivaj, you yourself were pointing out, Pakistan is not going to stop this misadventures. Pakistan is not going to stop sending terrorists across. So then, Ajay Alok, let me ask you what the opposition asks you. Then this muscular policy of the central government seems to not have worked. Is that not a question the opposition should ask them?
It's not like, no. It's not like that the muscular policy of the India is not working. It's working very well. We cannot have a talk to Pakistan if they continue brewing terrorism in their own field. See, terrorism is a business. And there's one tycoon of this business, it's Pakistan. We have to understand that. Having neighbors does not mean that you sacrifice on your internal security and you compromise on your safety of your citizens. No. A tough reply will always be given. And don't anticipate that we'll wait for them to strike and then we'll reply them. We are replying them from every corner by diplomatically, by putting on sanctions, by exposing them in the international front. Pakistan is facing the most tough time of its as of now.
Sure.
It's on the verge of bankruptcy. The IMF is not lending hand. So everything has to be taken into consideration. Just for the heck of it that we should do talk, no, not at all. It's not required.
Sure. Kapil Madan, last 30 seconds. We've seen the politics over this before every election, unfortunately. These are issues that come up right before elections every single time. Whether the government's policy is working or not is a fair question to ask, like I was pointing out. But at a time when we are fighting the common enemy, that is terror, should we then be standing together as one nation to not give a handle to anyone?
So Poonam, I think your viewers and Major Sivaj would agree that the Pakistan is the enemy nation from the very beginning. We all know that. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Having clearly known that Pakistan is our enemy, why? What was the reason when Narendra Modi ji won his first election in 2014? He called Nawaz Sharif, the then PM of Pakistan, for his oath-taking ceremony. You give me one reason for that. Is it sounding hypocritical to you? Why did Prime Minister itself in 2015 went to Pakistan to wish Nawaz Sharif on his birthday, and immediately thereafter a Pathankot incident happened? Was it not a failure of intelligence? Was it not a failure of diplomacy by the Narendra Modi government? I mean, you can make all kind of smoke screens here, and would try to deviate the discussions on the right topic. But the point is, any reasonable, responsible opposition will hold you to account to the hypocrisy that you're trying to do, the failure that you have done, and will hold you to account and will raise these issues before the public during elections.
And that's what the Congress and its allies seem to be doing. The BJP, of course, thinks this is nothing but appeasement politics in election season. The political war of words will only escalate given we still have 3 more phases left to go before verdict day on June 4th. Whether this is something that actually has resonance, that is something that is on the voters' mind, we'll find out sooner than later. But unfortunately, I'm completely out of time. I thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us here on this broadcast and sharing your perspective. It is a wrap from my side here on this edition. I thank you so much for tuning in.